All right. Once again, welcome. We give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to bestow His blessings upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household, his companions, and all reckoning. Um, I'm happy to be part of this webinar. And this webinar is our second webinar in the NGM AESSA team. So before we start the webinar proper, I would like to say some things, right, to give us a kind of insight into how this webinar came about and those organizing this webinar. So firstly, this is brought to us by the NGM and the AESSA team. So I'll be speaking to both of those organizations, so to speak, right? So NGM is a short form of Nasser Giwa mentorship, right? So it's a platform where students and young professionals are being mentored to be leaders, and these are done through various programs and initiatives. And one of the in NGM we have a lot of teams, right? So one of them is the AESSA team. The AESSA team stands for the Academic Excellence and Scholarship Support Access. So the summary of what this team is all about is that they look to the academic excellence and providing scholarship access to NGM members and the public, basically. So just like you have access to this webinar. So AESSA, we help three categories of students. Um, Firstly, we help students in the secondary school to a way to catch them young, basically. So for the secondary school, we have activities like outreaches, right? So we go to these schools, we have career workshop just to prepare them towards what they are going to meet in the university and for them to make the right choices. And also we have programs like competition, right, to take them out of their local environment, that is their school, right, to a sort of global environment where they can compete with um, other students and see um, what they need to improve on, right? So previously we've been doing things like the essay competition, and schools, right? They compete for they write essays just to see how far they've gone or how well they are doing, basically. So this year we'll be doing something different, which is an idea fair for the secondary school students. So the idea is that they bring up an idea and we look at the ideas of each of these students and we help them mentor them to achieving this or actualizing their ideas, basically. So this is for the secondary school. So the second category is the undergraduates, right? So for the undergraduates, we basically equip them with tools on how to achieve academic excellence and things that they need for getting scholarships, internships, and the likes, basically. For the graduates, right? So because we have um, a section for graduates as well. So what we do basically is to mentor these graduate students on securing a scholarship, right? So we have a mentorship platform where we put out a form for people to apply, right? So here we are in this mentorship platform, we mentor them throughout the application period for them to act till they submit the applications, basically. And a part of that mentorship is that we have a webinar, or we have like webinars every quarters, and this will be to the public One is for the mentees that we have; those are applied and to be shortlisted. Those people would be mentored throughout the year. For the public, we have like a quarterly based mentorship webinars. So the idea is that we do webinars for the kind of things that they should be doing at that period. Like the first quarter, now what we did was to introduce them to graduate school in general, whether it is the right choice for them. At this point now, we are trying to teach people on how to stay organized, how to tackle challenges that may arise when they begin their journey. And that's what most people will be doing now. Things that we may get from these sessions are also things like how to search for schools, how to how to know the right choice for you, and things around this. And right, this at this period, this is what most people would be doing. So this is the idea. And so that's it for AESSA basically. And for our session today, I would not be the one moderating the session. So I would like to introduce one of the members of AESSA would be moderating the session, and for him to speak to what to expect and their lives. So if Fadullah Adini is here, please could you just take over?
Okay, thank you very much for that concise opening remark. So yeah, let's get started into the webinar. Now, I think I would like to say that I would like to congratulate everyone that made out time to join the webinar. I can assure you that this will be one of the best decisions we ever make this year. So, without further ado, I think we'll be moving straight into the webinar, and I would I would like to introduce our speaker, the person of Abdulmalik, who will be the speaker for the main part of the webinar. Then we'll be having a panelist session. So the panelist session will be more of a compensation for those that stay to the end. So trust me, you won't want to miss both parts of the webinar. So Abdul Malik is a doctoral researcher at CEPLAS in Germany. He has yeah is currently undergoing his PhD studies in plants microbiome interaction. Is the editor at ASPB's Planty, and ultimately he's a first class graduate at University of Ilorin. And then he's passionate about science communication, mentoring, and soccer. So permit me to hand over the invisible microphone to our scholar par excellence, who will be taking us through the journey of achieving these accomplishments. Having a fully funded PhD is just a lot, and I can assure you that you would find this session highly important. So I don't know if we can see some reactions to show our excitement. I'm highly excited to be here. So I don't know if you are. So reactions,
Yeah, can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you, sir.
All right, so I will. Is it okay if I share my slides?
No problem. It's definitely fine, sir.
Okay. Um, so- Sorry, it's taking quite a while. Okay. Please, you will let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see the screen? Okay. So you can see the screen, yeah?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. So really nice to be here today and to really be giving this talk on graduate school applications, what are the first steps, and how to start and stay organized. And for me, when I was approached with this topic, one thing that came to mind was, which is also the reason why I felt this was an okay topic, was that a lot of people that go through the graduate application phase, of course, that is coming from my experience of having mentored a couple of persons in the past 3 years, is that they ignore that the importance of taking the right first steps. That is how to set yourself on the path to achieving success at the end of the road. And for me, I'm always an advocate of this. I always want to clarify to people that I mentor and people that I'm directly in contact with that things you do at the very beginning actually has a very big role to play at the end. That is regarding the outcome of your credit application process. So today I will just be giving you an overview of exactly how to condition your mind towards before applying to graduate school to ensure that you have a successful outcome at the end of the day. And I will also be in between the thoughts. I will be sharing a bit of my experience that I have worked with people, what I have learned, and that is the key learnings and key insights that have been helpful to everyone I've really mentored in the past few years. Well, just to start the whole talk, personally, I feel preparation is really very important, almost equally, if not more important than the application part itself. So I usually ask that people recommend rather that people think about things as this part, right? That your grant application package is made up of like the two phases, equal phases of there is a preparation phase, which you spend a lot of time in, and then there's the application phase, which involves just basically putting up your application together and submitting it at the end of the day. And of course, whether the response you get is going to be positive or the likelihood that you're going to get a positive response when you actually at the end of the day submit your application is hugely dependent on exactly what you do in the preparation phase. And today I'll be giving you a bit of like an overview and really strong insight into how to like think about this preparation phase and what it actually would entail. So the first thing typically I would advise individuals to really do is to really clarify their why. That is very important. And as it may look like it's a bit trivial, you know, you kind of think that, yeah, just on the spot, I really think about my why. I already know why I'm applying for graduate school. It's not that simple. And these questions, I brought them out because I find that they are very useful in helping you to really come up with thoughts, ideas, and insights that will actually ensure that you prepare a very robust and competitive application package. So I urge everyone that's on the audience today to really take their time to listen and try to really implement these strategies because they've worked for me and for several other people, and I'm sure they're going to work for you. So the first thing, like I said, is you have to clarify why do you want to go to graduate school, and there is several reasons why you would want to go to graduate school. You might decide that it's a personal reason. Oh, I think it's my way to go to abroad. I really want to go abroad, and so I want to take graduate school route. This is a valid reason. And there is no invalid reason, right? It could be that you think that I want to further my studies in a particular area, and this is an opportunity for me to really get that very, very top-notch, high-level experience. That's also very good. If you also feel like there is particular experience that I'm looking to get, and that is actually why I want to go to graduate school, is very important also. But it's important that you actually clarify this why, because often times your essays and all the application I'm going to submit are going to be hugely dependent on how clear your vision and your mission is. And then you have to talk about what are you, I think, as part of the broad question of why you want to go to graduate school is for you to really think about what are you curious or passionate about, and what interests you as a whole, right? A couple of times I've had experience. And this is why normally when I talk to people, graduates in school enthusiasts, I try to share the insight, like the key learnings that I've had, because this is something I have done actively and passively for the past years. And one thing I've consistently found out is when people have very weak and not so competitive applications, one thing that strikes is that sometimes they struggle with their interests, right? They don't really understand what they are interested about, what is actually interesting to them. They just model whatever, which is it's not so important that you have it clear if you don't want to. But what's most important is that you actually able to clearly state it. So I say this, right? If I read your SOPs or I read your essays and I don't really understand why your argument for why you are interested in this particular thing is not genuine enough, even if you have a very genuine explanation, it means one of two things. It's either you don't know what you're interested in, or you fail to communicate it properly. And in these two cases, your application is less competitive. So, and I don't have to spend exchange emails just to be sure that you actually know what you're doing or not. So it's very important that you actually know what you're curious about, what interests you, and what you're passionate about. And this also ties down to exactly what kind of experience and training you are looking for. Very, very important, because why often when you start to think about what interests you, you start to understand, okay, why do you want to go to graduate school? They start to make things clear for you to understand what experience do you lack right now that you want to get, right? What kind of training are you looking for? So, like I said, which is one thing I'm trying to do to make this session really interactive and very interesting for you. I try to point out examples, real life examples, just to drive home my point. Recently had an encounter with a graduate school enthusiast. She wanted to apply for programs, and her interest was, I want to get hands-on experience. Okay, I want to get hands-on experience on a particular skill, and then she had two offers. And then in deciding which offer she was going to go for, okay, just to put it clear, one offer had more money, the other offer was lower, but overall, the stipend was really generous for both scholarships. If she were looking out for the money aspect, she would say, "Oh yeah, I go for this." And this is why I say it's very important to clarify why do you want to go to graduate school. If you just want to go and say, "Okay, I just want to go abroad and make the highest cash I can make from graduate school. I don't really care about the trainings," then you already have your answer. But then she was interested in the hands-on experience, and then the others one actually offered it more, and that was why she ended up making her choice differently. So this is quite important for you to think about exactly what kind of training you're looking for, because either at the point of that application or of preparing your application package, or even at the point of making choices regarding your priority list, at the end of the day, you would have to make a choice, and those choices are going to be reflected or influenced based on the trainings and the skills and the experience you actually search for. The other important, very, very complicated part that people also try to ascertain is actually whether they should apply for an MSc or a PhD. And this is also another critical aspect of preparing your graduate school application, because oftentimes people think, oh, I just do a PhD because it's PhD. And some people think I will just do an MSc because I just want to follow the route. This is not enough reason for you to decide whether you want to do an MSc or a PhD. It goes beyond that. Now you have to know the realities of what a PhD entails and what an MSc program entails. A PhD program is generally research based, right? And depending on the country that you actually go for the PhD program, it involves a bit of different things. If you would go to Europe, for example, for your PhD program, it would be direct PhD where you go directly into, you delve you delve directly into your research. And this is why it's not really common for you to find offers in Europe that actually offers you a direct path towards a PhD. Mine is one actually offers me direct path from my bachelor's to a PhD, but it's quite really, really not so common that you find this kind of paths. But in the US, for example, when you go for a PhD, you still spend a couple of, like, at least 2 years trying to, do coursework, navigate different research, a bit of variety within this particular field of research areas, and then you end up choosing the research area you want to concentrate in within that broad research space, and then you focus on that for your PhD for the last 3 years. So sometimes some people still get a master's in the process of doing a PhD in a US program. This is why in some instances, you really don't need a master's to really get into a direct PhD if you're considering the US. So this is the reality. So in this kind of case, if you apply for a PhD in the US and you already know the program you're applying for actually gives you this robust opportunity to still get a master's and still get a PhD, you might want to rethink about whether you want to do an MSc or a PhD, especially if you are certain that a research career is what you want to pursue. But if it's an MSc program, of course, you know that you know what you're getting. At the end of the day, you're not getting a robust research experience. What you're getting is trainings to really understand how the field works, what are the key skills and experience to get in the field, also preparing you towards a doctoral duty. So if you're someone who's kind of uncertain about whether you really want to commit yourself to a research space or not, also an MS is the way to go. Of course, there is also the issue of funding, which is more for PhDs than MS in the US, but generally you would find a lot of scholarships all around the world that funds MS as well as PhD. So you have to also make a very clear decision at this point in time, what matters to you and what you want to pursue. So beyond this is also the next logical step after clarifying your why, understanding the reasons behind your choices is for you to also start to research the programs, right? Very important aspect of things. And then when you want to research the programs, you potentially want to find what are the programs I'm interested in, right? And you want to understand how to look for these programs. And one way to look for these programs is probably go to the university websites and you kind of look at the programs and you see what they have and you try to understand it more. You can also look at the departmental pages just to get an overview into exactly what the department actually offers you as regard to the trainings, as regard to the experience, as regard to the skills and the diploma that you get. You can also look at the scholarship websites, especially for external scholarships like Erasmus and Commonwealth. Maybe you look at the program, the scholarship website, to really understand what the scholarship is about. And here I have to really, really clarify that the more you research and the more knowledge you have about the program, the more you're able to really tailor your application and the more competitive you actually will be. Because I found that a common trend beyond with people that actually get scholarships at the end of the day is that they actually spend a lot of time researching the programs and they don't really put out empty sentences or empty words. You find a lot of people rephrasing the same thing in different sentences and different lines. This is typically not the best way to go if you really, really want to make the most of application, right? You want to submit this competitive application. Every word and every sentence should count. This is for another time when you're talking about SOPs, but generally the knowledge that it used to really inform those words comes from you doing a thorough research about the program you're actually going for and exactly what it entails. And I want to also quickly point this out that, for example, programs like Erasmus, for example, when you go to the Erasmus catalog, you would see that generally they have a catalog of list of programs, and then when you click on the programs, you can go to the program website. Even on that, when you just click on the programs, there's a brief overview that is presented about the programs. Reading this actually already gives you a first insight into exactly what the program would be about, and then you go deeper to really do your research into exactly what the program then states on your website to really get further information. Do not disregard this first layer of information thinking, of course, oh yeah, we'll just go into the website and actually just understand it better. Because sometimes this understanding that this summary and this overview that has been put at this first layer of that it kind of meets with the program actually helps you get in a kind of a broad view of exactly what the program will offer you, allowing you to really decide whether you want to really go into deeper research to explore the program further. So all these are equally important, and all these are spaces that you can actually use to really explore the programs that are interesting to you. You can also, of course, look at the faculty profiles. This is very important. So I will talk more about most of these things later when we talk about the scholarship tracker, because one of the specs, of course, to this section is that I will show you how to populate a scholarship tracker. And at the end of the day, we will talk in details about exactly some of these things, how they look in practicality, in the practical sense, which I feel will be very relevant to everyone who's on the call today. So when you look at, back to talking about the faculty profiles, you also have to look at the faculty profiles. For example, there are some cases where you actually want an experience, a training, and the program says they have that training. But then you look at the faculty profiles and it doesn't look like there's a faculty who's part of the program who's handling that kind of research area. So this kind of forms a basis for you to send an inquiry email, right? To ask, hello, I'm interested in this research area and your program offers it, but I don't see a professor in that area. How does this work and things like this? And I'm sure you definitely get 9 out of 10 times a reply email stating exactly what is the provision to ensure that you actually get that skill that you are looking for. So this is very, very important for you to already do as the first steps to get an overview and interest into exactly what your program what it looks like, what it offers, and exactly what you will get at the end of the day. So like I said, what one thing that you need to, I mean, three things that you need to really look out for is the research alignment. So if you're pursuing a PhD program, you really want to be sure that the program that you're applying for actually offers the research alignment with the interest that you have. This is very critical, right? Because you don't want to have a misalignment, because when there's misalignment and you apply thinking there's an alignment, then it already means that your first homework was failed, and that also weakens the strength of your application. And that's not what you want to do. The next thing you have to think about is funding availability. That is, a program in a school does not inform that there's a funding available in the school, right? So these are some things you have to check. Sometimes the funding comes in assistantship, in fellowships, in different forms, right? And this is something you really, really need to understand exactly how is it going to come. Do you have to apply for the funding differently? Is there available funding that the department gives you, or does the government gives you funding automatically just when you get admission? There are different angles to these things, and you really need to understand it further to also inform the kind of schools that you're going to shortlist that you'll be applying to. Importantly is all these things because it allows you to really streamline the schools you're going to be applying to, the places you're going to be applying to, and the programs that are going to be interesting to you, allowing you to really concentrate your efforts where it matters more, right? And at the end of the day, all this information, you don't just throw them away. You don't just find information about the university website from the university website and say, okay, I understand this right now. Knowing fully well that 10 days, 20 days, or 30 days from now, when you need that knowledge, again, you might find it hard to remember most of these things that you've already found because you'll be doing a lot of other things on the side. So what you would probably want to do is creating a tracking sheet that you can use to really, collate all this information, especially for programs that are interesting to you, so that you don't have to go through doing the raw search again anytime you find it important for you. You can just go to the tracking sheet and really understand exactly what you've done in the past and exactly try to read up the contents and make use of the information you've collated. So one of the things, there are different ways you could create a tracking sheet. You could use a Google Sheet, you could use Notion, and several other application packages. Which one? It's one of them is the using Excel, which I will definitely use for the demonstration later on today. So of course, I try to also come up with like a timeline description to really allow you to understand exactly how you can actually think about planning for graduate school. So for your first step, how you can actually guide your first steps towards applying to graduate school, what you really need to do, and how you need to understand these first steps, how they work, right? An ideal timeline I try to present, and this is not cast on stone, right? Because I will tell you something for sure. One thing people don't understand, like I said, is people think that application is so easy that some people actually wait until the application open and decide, oh yeah, application is opening, so I start to prepare an application package here. And I hope that so far I've actually been able to show you there are a lot of things that actually you have to think about to really even decide on what you want to do before the application opens. And now what I try to do with this slide is try to show you exactly, maybe give you a rough overview of exactly how you can plan your time to ensure that you actually, are on the right steps, you're taking the right steps towards the goal that you intend to achieve. And for me, for example, and for some of my colleagues, for me, it was even more practical because the next day after I finished my POP was when I traveled for my graduate school program. And a lot of people say, yeah, we like this, we want this, it's so attractive that, wow, you just finished university, you went for service, and the next day you traveled. But it started 3 years for me. It started when I was actually in 300 level, to be honest. Like, I was, at that point, I was already, I had a 4-year course, bachelor course in University of Illinois then. But in my 300 level, I was already actually aware of the steps I wanted to take in my graduate school. So what I did was I made the intentional choice about who I chose for my research supervisor. I made the intentional choice about going in groups, and we formed groups, and we tried to already start learning about the process all together. And I made also intentional efforts to kind of get recommenders, which I will talk a bit about in maybe 2 minutes. So it's important that you actually start as early as you can. So if you have not started right now, once you drop off this call, it's important that you get your pen to paper and you start planning how you're going to maximize the time you have before the next application season starts. So the ideal timeline, like I would just basically go through, is that so 9 to 12 months before the program is actually the ideal time for you to really explore the program, to get contact potential advisors. So I already mentioned about important things about how you need to really understand if there's an alignment in the research that you want to pursue, or the program you want to pursue, whether the program actually offers you what you want. So it is actually at this time they actually start to, if you think if you have questions about the program, about the research area, or you're interested in certain research area, please, this is the actual time for you to start planning to send cold emails or inquiry emails to the graduate school coordinators to really understand the program, of course. And another thing I usually kind of advise people to do at this point is also that they should try to contact current scholars in the program. So immediately, I said in the previous slide that you kind of have a tracking sheet where you actually have your things that is the scholarship programs that you want to apply to already there. And I will tell you this for sure. This that I prepared kind of an added time-wise I will call it stepwise process, for this whole systematic thinking and structured process that I will again go through at the end of the slide. So if you're missing something or you're getting confused about something, we'll talk about it again. So like I said, 9 to 12 months before time, like you already need to already contact the scholars, right? If you already have the schools that you want to apply to on a sheet. So look at those schools, go to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very, very open space that you can really shoot connection requests to scholars that are in your program, finish from your program. And what you do at this point in time is that you basically just send them an email and say, hey, I'm interested in your program. Please give me tips and insights that you think would guide my application, right? Very interesting because, and you just give them time to respond. Don't bombard them with like several messages thinking they have all the time in the world. Believe me, until you get here, you don't understand how busy it could be. They have personal life, they have professional life, they have a whole lot of other things other than a LinkedIn to actually focus on. So you need to also give them breathing space to really respond to your emails, right? And maybe not all of them will respond to it, which is also fine. You don't have to hold them in contempt just because they don't respond to your connection request. But for those that respond, actually ask them for tips, seek their tips and guide and insight. At this point in time, you're not sending any document for them to review, right? Once they give you the tips, you use those tips to inform your writing. At the end of the essays, the application package that you are going to write. And I give you this tip for free, right? Sometimes the difference between your application and somebody's application that won the scholarship is not really about the essay. Sometimes it's in the other documents that you attached. And quite often than not, a lot of people miss this because some scholarship will ask you other documents. And some people just be like, yeah, I don't have other documents, I just leave it blank. But sometimes, I can say for sure, confidently, sometimes the difference between your application and the other person's application is just because the person uploaded some other documents that you didn't think about. So this is why it's very important that you actually talk to scholars and get their insights about exactly what you should focus on exactly on your essays, if you're writing essays, what your recommendations should be like, things, any tips at all works at this point in time. And then afterwards, you go to the, like maybe it's like around 6 months, you already decide, do you want to write TOEFL, do you want to write GRE, do you want to, and also essays you have to draft. Now, this is why the structured thinking process actually really, really works, right? And that is what I'm trying to preach to you throughout my session today. It is that when you start by doing your research and you populate your scholarship Google sheet or whatever scholarship tracker from the application package you're using, right? What happens is that you already start to get clarity about exactly whether you want to write TOEFL or not. Now, I will explain this. I will, of course, still refer back to this later. But one thing you need to know is you don't necessarily need to write TOEFL, IELTS, GRE if you don't need them. And for you to know whether you need them, it's on an individual basis. For you to know whether you need them, you need to already have the list of schools you want to apply to and see if it is worth it. Let me give you an instance, right? If you're applying to 10, 15 schools, and out of those 15 schools, one school requires GRE, you have to think about whether it is worth your money or not. Otherwise, you can just cancel it out and then apply to 14 schools that don't require GRE. It is not worth it, except there is a level of confidence. Maybe that's your surest school and you think it's definitely worth it, of course. It's not really, really advisable that you just write an IELTS or TOEFL for one school, except maybe you have your partner in that place, you want to really go to that place, or you have a special reason why you really, really, really want to go to that place, or the professor has already promised you that you're going to get an offer. Other than this, please, on that kind of note, you can just cancel it out. If it's also two schools, you have to make a decision actively by looking at your scholarship, your scholarship trackers, right? Don't just make decisions because other people are writing IELTS, you go and pay over 245,000 just to write an IELTS. At the end of the day, you don't use it. That's just a waste of money. So you also have to be very, very smart about things you do, right? And then 2 to 3 months before, you have to engage your recommenders and polish your applications. This is very important. So, and a recommendation, I usually say this, right? If at this point in time you have not made active been very intentional about really getting your recommenders ready, or having recommend people who are your professors who are willing to recommend for you, you still have time to build it. October is still a bit far, right? And there are some application packages that are still open right now. But what you can do, if you've not been, you need to have at least, my advice is always have at least 4 different recommenders, right? People who are willing to share recommendation for you. One, of course, should always be your research supervisor. And then maybe 2 of your lecturers. If you work somewhere, maybe one person from your working space who you think would write a recommendation for you. But it's very important that you have a very good relationship with these people, because you would want to be able to tell them, if you don't want them to just send a generic recommendation for you, right? All throughout my scholarship applications, right, I always wrote a draft for most of my lecturers to use. So I always say, okay, hey, sir, please, I know you are busy, and that is a way to put it. And just that's a tip I'm giving you here. You can just write to the person, hey, sir, just like I earlier talked about, I need your recommendation for this. I know you are busy, so I try to write a draft for you, just so that maybe it can guide your writing process. More often than not, they'll say thank you. More often than not, they will not even change anything. So that's why your draft already has to be like almost reviewed in a final form, in case they don't actually change anything, right? There was this time that I was actually going to, when I was going for my national youth service, and I was, in the morning when I boarded the bus, I saw an application that was open, and I really wanted to submit the application, but it was closed. It was closing that night, I think, around 12 o'clock. So I sent, just while I was on the bus, I sent a message to 3 of my professors in the department, and all 3 of them sent my recommendation, submitted my recommendation before midday. But this is a reflection of my relationship with them, right? You have to really be intentional about building this relationship with them so that you benefit from it on the long run. You don't have to reach out to professors only when you need them to send the recommendation, because often than not, they will not. So one of the professors that actually sent recommendation for me, when one of my colleagues reached out to him, he said he doesn't know them, so he cannot send recommendation for them. So of course, you cannot blame them. Ideally, he has to know you to send recommendation for you. So you have to build that relationship already so that you can use it when you need it, not only reach out to them when you need them. Okay, so this time, if you have not done it, take this time out to send an email to your professor. Just say, hey, sir, if he doesn't know you and you've identified that you will need him in your application phase, just say, hey, sir, this is me. I had this result. I was a good student in your time. I just want to check back and reach out to you to check how you are doing, sir. Hope your family is fine. Engage them in conversation slowly, get them on a call, slowly tell them about your plans, involve them. When they feel involved, when it is time, and you now say, sir, I need your help with this, they are more, open to helping you then. So you really need to think about these things ahead of time. So like I said, create a calendar or checklist system that you actually use to really track your progress to ensure that you're actually on the right path to doing what you want to do. This allows you to know month by month basis whether I'm hitting my goals or if I'm slacking behind, and how I can actually amend that. And then also create a buffer kind of for rejections and backups. So there is this thing about being intentional, being the expert person in preparing your application package and still failing at getting a scholarship, right? I had a friend who only shot one application, got the application correct, got scholarship into graduate school, and that was it. But this is quite uncommon, I would say. So except you have had inspiration from God and Allah said, yeah, you are going to get it, which is not the case. Please apply for as many applications rather as you can, as long as it aligns with your interest. It doesn't mean you are in the field of biology and you're applying for application in physics just because you want to shoot your application. You already know that one is filled. You're not going to get in for that one. So there's no need to stress there. That time that you used to send in the application for physics, you would have used it to maybe improve the application you sent for the biology program. So you have to be really smart about the numbers, but of course, try to apply for as many as possible. A lot of people also find it easy to rule themselves out. Once it's January like this, they're like, okay, I'm done with the application. Or if I don't have, or February like this, they say like, oh, the application has closed. If I don't have any offer right now, I cannot have an offer again. This is actually far from the truth. I know someone that applied for a program, for a scholarship program in June, got her response in July, resumed in October. So you have to always be there. You know you are in that phase, you have prepared, so always be there. You can get your scholarship at the later time. There's no time bound to it. The most important thing is that you get it, and that's the goal. So you have to always be open, don't lose hope, get yourself going as much as you can. So The next thing typically is how to tips on how to stay organized, right? So there are a lot of tools that you can use to actually stay organized, and this goes from Google Sheets to Notion for tracking schools, deadlines, materials. You can also use cloud folders to really organize your documents by schools, and this is very, very important because when you start applying to schools, a lot of people don't create folders for it. Like, create a folder for each of this. Once you have your Google Sheet, right, create a folder for each of the schools you want to apply to, right? And then all documents that you're preparing, because you are preparing ahead of time, every document you're preparing, you put it in those folders. So at the end of the day, you set a timeline where you actually check all those folders to ensure that for each of the schools, all the documents you want to submit are already there. So you know that, okay, all these things, I sort them out. Some people don't even prepare their, because if you're applying for Erasmus, there is, I think, citizenship or residence letter that you have to submit or something like this. Some people don't know this until like maybe 2 days to the deadline. They're like, I didn't know that this come up. What were you doing all this while? So you really have to, stay ahead of time, get all these documents that we're going to take you time. International passport, for example, this one is a common knowledge, but there's also some specific knowledge, specific documents that we're going to take you time to obtain. Please try as much as you can to really obtain them early enough so that you have enough time to really focus on what really matters. And then if you are reviewing, for example, if you are reviewing essay, getting reviewers' comments from the scholars, for example, like I told you before, right? When you message the scholars, you also use the same avenue. Get the insight first. Tell them when you told them that they should give you insight. When they give you insight, thank them, and then tell them, okay, I'm going to start writing my application, my essays right now. Please, can I give it to you maybe like a month ahead of the opening date itself? Like, I'm going to send you my application package a month ahead of the opening date. So you have a month plus all the dates that the scholarship is open for you to actually review for me. More often than not, you get it earlier than that. The most important thing is you have to also value, think about the time that the reviewers will need to really get back to you. For example, myself, if you send me an application package and you say you want me to review it a night before the deadline, I'll most likely not review it for you. If you send it a week before the deadline, I most likely start considering, okay, the base, I would kind of reduce the kind of review that I would give because I'll be feeling like I don't want to put you on unnecessary stress by being too critical of everything. But if you give me way ahead of schedule, I can now consider the fact that you can learn through this experience and really, really try to be detailed in my review such that when you write future essays, you are even better on your own, So you have, if you want to really also learn through the process, because it's a learning process, if you want to learn through the process as well, you have to also give yourself opportunity to learn. That means you prepare everything ahead of time and you really have insights, you really have opportunity to learn. I prepared all my application package, I think, except those ones that I found within the application season. Most of them, all of them I prepared before even October month. So I already had them already because for our case, we were going for camping around November and I knew I was going to be in camp. So I tried to prepare everything down. So when I was in camp, some of them I submitted through my phone because of course I didn't take laptop to the camp. So this is things you have to think about. If there are going to be excuses you're going to have at later on, try to prepare ahead for them so they don't really affect you so much. And then, okay, to this point is typically, I just pushed up this slide to just tell you a bit about the common mistakes that people actually make, right? So like one of the first mistakes is applying without a clear research direction. So I have found this a lot in people's essays. Most people, they are applying to application packages and then they don't even know what they really want to do. And I start to wonder that, what you find, for example, there was this lady who actually submitted an application package, and then the first essay, the first paragraph to show her research experience, her research interest and all that, it wasn't the pitch, I would call it, was not convincing. And I was like reaching out to her on the phone and I was saying, hey, what's going on? I really don't get this your pitch. I don't bad with can you rephrase or do something? And then the next essay she pitched something else, and I was like, I was expecting her to improve on the other one, and suddenly she's pitching something else. I'm like, okay, now let's do this. What do you really want to do? And she's like, I just want to win scholarship. It's true. That is the end of that's the end goal. But like, you really have to think about the pitch, right? This is very important, because if you don't do it, if you don't do that pitch well, even that your overall end goal, which is I just want to win scholarship, would not work. So you really have to think about exactly what are the things that are going to be very, very important so that you can already have the clarity of mind to be able to prepare your application package. Copy pasting SOPs. I don't need to buttress this point because a lot of you mistakes that you make is that you just look at somebody's SOP, you don't copy itself. You don't even actively copy. You passively copy it, I will say, because you will go to your essays, and then because you think of words, it doesn't work, so you end up lifting a whole paragraph, a whole sentence from somebody's essays. How do you overcome this? How do you kind of avoid this, right? What you can do is try to, when you're applying for application package and you really want to get inspirations to how to write SOPs, and this is an active exercise I give to some of my mentees. You take at least 3 to 4 different SOPs that actually won scholarships, right? And you have to know this, that an SOP won the scholarship does not mean it's a good SOP. Like, it's a very, very good SOP. It's not bad, of course, there's no bad SOP that won it. But that an SOP won a scholarship does not mean that if you repeat the same thing, you likely win the scholarship. So what you have to really think about is that when I see this, it's possible that I submit this application. It's possible that the person applied to a program that, like, they were not, it's not like it was not competitive per se, or maybe he was like the top person from like maybe 5 people that applied from a particular region, and because of the region they really want. Like, there's a lot of decision making yardstick that actually go in the application package, in selecting people, that you actually cannot just say because you want this scholarship you have the best essay. This doesn't work. Sometimes it's not that he has the best essay, sometimes it's that he had the best the experience actually, gave him a lot of points that allowed him, that maybe the difference between him and somebody that had maybe like he had 20 something over 25 over 40, and somebody else had 35 over 40, but the person didn't win because the person's experience was lower and his experience was better. So you have to really think about that fact that if I replicate this SOP, I might be opening myself up for failure. The best you can do, which is, like I said, the exercise I give to my mentees, is that you take at least 4 SOPs, right? You critique them. See, what did they do? Firstly, you first understand what should be in an SOP. And then from your lens, objective lens, you try to critique them. What was good in this SOP? What was not good? And then you do that across all the first 4 SOPs, right? And then by doing that actively, you are preparing yourself, you are learning, you are allowing yourself to really be able to understand the thinking behind the sentence structures, the pitching and everything. And you discuss this with your friend or your colleague that you do this exercise with, and you hear the way they also perceive it differently. And then you guys make arguments for what you think was good, and you make arguments for what you think was not good. By doing it actively, you prepare yourself to be able to write a very even better SOP, right? Because now you're not really thinking about just one SOP and thinking this is a godlike SOP, right? But you are thinking about it as of different SOPs, what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses, and you're trying to use their strength to really make yourself better. So it will end up making you write even a better one. So you have to also think about the aspect that some programs don't tell you to contact advisors. But even if they don't tell you to contact advisors, please contact them. It's very important. You can just say, yeah, I'm interested in your research area and blah, 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 blah. They might still have some level of influence on the selection process. So please don't really downplay this actually aspect of things. Mental health and peer support are also important things. So especially when you get to the application phase, right, or even the preparation phase, you might get exhausted and tired. There was one day I sent my review, and when I got the review back, I was about to go to sleep, right? And then I saw the email from the scholar. So I kind of computer and I was seeing red from beginning of the document. It was a 2-page document from beginning of the document to the end. I almost gave up. Like, I closed my computer. I was like, I'm going to sleep. I'm not going to look at this. And then I had to tell myself, okay, I have to, let me try to learn, right? And then I sat down with the computer. I tried to, attend to each and every line of the review and try to see exactly what was good, what was not good. I mean, what I appreciated, what I thought was still, I really didn't like. And this is why it's important that you also have your thoughts. When you send an essay to a scholar to review and the scholar perceived it different, maybe didn't really understand why you included a particular sentence or not, you really have to be able to think whether the review came right, or you think, oh, you really don't understand me, that's why I actually given this review. Then this is when you now call the scholar and explain your reasoning for including that. So the scholar might say, oh, if you did it this way, then it makes more sense, right? So this is fine, and even help you to really pitch yourself even better. So these are things you have to think about. Don't just accept everything that comes and say, yeah, I'm just accepting it like that. Because, oh yeah, he's there in the US, he's there in the UK, and I'm here in Nigeria, I don't have an opinion. No. Try to learn, and if you don't understand it, ask questions. It's in that asking question. Oftentimes, there are sometimes where someone asks me a question, I end up saying, "Oh, your point is valid actually, but then let's do it like this because it was not obvious. Let's make it more obvious so that it kind of speaks for itself, right?" It's very important. So creating peer support is important. Talk to people that you're actually going through the same phase with. You are doing the same thing. Please talk to people. Let them know that, okay, I'm stressed right now. There are sometimes that one of my friends will call me, "Hello, I'm just tired." and then we just talk about how tired we are. But then, because we've shared that experience, we kind of get energy to actually keep going. This is very important. Also, celebrate progress. When you submit one application, mark it, maybe drink water if that's your celebration spec, but just do something small, go out, take a breath of fresh air, and kind of be good. So I have to wrap up quickly, right? But I will, of course, still do these things because I take excuse from the fact that we didn't start based on the time we were supposed to start. So yeah, this is the outline of a scholarship tracker. I will quickly just walk you through it. So firstly, basically, we get the university. You talk about the university that you're applying to, the country. Then you actually include the graduate program that you're applying for. What is the contact that you need? Like if you have questions regarding the graduate school, who should you reach out to? What is the minimum CGPA required? What are the documents that are needed? Forget the spelling errors, please. I see them. Okay, so what are the GRE minimum? What are the TOEFL minimum? And then funding availability, potential advisor, priority deadline, application fee, website link, and other special requirements. So these are very, very important. These are kind of very interesting things that when you include and in your scholarship tracker, it helps you make decisions as regards to which school to prioritize and which one not to prioritize. Eventually, you see this application fee, right? If you cannot find waiver for some applications, you'll be forced to push it down, right? So this is why it's important for you to actually find out if the application fee waivers or if they are not, things to do about them. Then priority deadline also allows you to know how to plan ahead for the opening of the program. Also, funding availability is important. So now we will just quickly take a detour and we will see exactly what it looks like populating a scholarship tracker, okay? So yeah, we will go. You don't see my screen now, I know, right? But do you see the screen now? Yes. Okay, great. So when I click the link, this is actually where it came from. So this is just one way of populating a scholarship tracker. I must say that this is just when, for example, this I find really helpful when you're talking about schools in the US. When you're talking about programs like, in your scholarship tracker, you have to include Commonwealth program, Commonwealth shared, Erasmus programs and programs in King Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia, maybe UAE and things like this. When you want to do those, you kind of use a different strategy, right? For example, if you are including Erasmus Mundus in your scholarship tracker, you could actually go to the Erasmus Mundus program and see, of course, and kind of feed it from there. But this is just particularly if you want to search for schools, for example, in the US. So we just go to North America here, and then we go to, so maybe you want to choose the country, you go here, United States, and then maybe we go to Georgia here, and then we go to University of Georgia, for example. So I will open the scholarship booklet. So this is actually the scholarship tracker I have prepared. So all these aspects that I actually mentioned, all of them are here at the top. So I will close it. So we populate it one after the other. So this is University of Georgia. That means we already put our university as what? University of Georgia. That is very simple. University of Georgia. So you can also later on, organize this scholarship tracker by. You can also organize it by the country, right? So if you have USA, you can also maybe Europe, and then we go to graduate program. So I will just to be fast, I will go through the graduate program that I'm aware about. Then we do, they have the, so if you want to search, you will see the search button here, and then you click on it, then you have here, and then I will just search PhD plant pathology. So they have options here. So I will click here. This is PhD plant pathology, UGA. So they click here. So I start to see information. So I want PhD plant pathology, and then it's already here. PhD, yeah, G plant pathology, and then the contact and the minimum CGPA. So we just look at it outrightly and we start to see. So we look here and see the information that we can find. So this is actually the PhD plant pathology program, and then we can go here. So this is a graduate coordinator's line. So we just view program website. So this is actually graduate programs we are looking for, and then we go to admissions. So here we see that they say here requires CV, statement of purpose, and IELTS. Just for normally I will type this, but just to make life easy for us, I'll just copy and paste. So these documents needed, right? So the documents needed, I copied and paste here. CV, statement of purpose, IELTS, this course. So now you have to think about the fact that some of these schools actually offer, allows you not to submit your IELTS if you actually are from a particular country. So maybe you want to check this later, right? But let's just see which information we can put on our scholarship tracker from here. So you see that your application will be evaluated and the recommendation for acceptance or rejection will be made by the graduate school. Assistantship funding are also made by this committee. The criteria for evaluation is as follows. But here they said that once you get admission, basically you get once you get admission, basically you get the assistantship. So that would mean that there is funding available. I think it's here, right? Yeah, are typically supported through assistantship, this stipend. So everybody's supported through that. So you already know that there is funding and then assistantship and fellowship. So you can already put it here, funding availability. You put assistantship slash fellowships, right? This is available. Then priority deadline, application fee, these are other things that we really need to fill. So you go here, then you see the graduate coordinator's email. So this is the kind of contact person you want to actually reach out to. So you want to really, let's see. Yeah. So you want to put this already here. And the reason why this is very important is so that you can have an idea about exactly, maybe if you have questions, and you can decide exactly who you want to really message, and it becomes very easier for you. So again, you see here, we already see certain information from here, but we want to check the IELTS and the TOEFL, whatever. So we kind of go back here. I will search it from here, IELTS and TOEFL, just to know, because usually this English requirements, language proficiency requirements, and then you see here, this you can get the minimum values here, and then I think so yes, so this is actually the minimum requirement here, and I think there are exemptions, country specific requirements. They have country specific requirements. So here we go to Nigeria, and then you can see here from Nigeria, they said proof of degree is important, IELTS and TOEFL not required. So this means that you don't need IELTS and TOEFL if you're from Nigeria. So that would be a very good thing. So you say automatically, you already tell yourself, sorry, I don't need IELTS, not needed, not applicable. And then you already put that here, and then yes, so you already put that, and basically this is already done. And then the priority deadline, application fee, this is something you need to know, and basically then you can usually get the application fee, I think from the website. So applications, so you can also search application fee from here. Application. So UGA graduate school, and then this is where you have application, and they have $75 interest. And you have to be rich to be able to apply. That's a very interesting thing here. So you will put the so actually some people have money, to be honest, because like I remember when we were applying, then I met someone when I wrote IELTS, and the person said she kept, I think, $300 for application fees alone. I was like, okay, that's good. So that's to tell you that, yes, people are really determined to make it work. But we also have a lot of people that applied to like 30 something schools and didn't pay one dime for application fee. How is that possible? You start early, you start messaging the, even when you don't see application fee waivers. You see here now, they said they have application fee waivers, right? And they are the people that have participated in only certain programs. And only when you were smart would you know that this program actually is something that I can actually participate in. So when you, for example, this one, you can apply to it, and if you get if you get in the program, what happens? They give you a letter that allows you to actually overcome this, to bypass this kind of application fee. So if you don't start early, check out these programs, you will not know about this thing, and you will just say, why didn't you apply? Someone will tell you the application fee was too big, but the same another person applied to the same school without application fee. And another tip is basically, even if they do have application fee, you can still message the guide coordinator asking them if there is waivers, and they should clarify if there are certain things, tips for you to get waivers for you. So these are very, very critical things that you have to, know. I think last year there was someone who actually really did that and actually got his application fee waived. So here now they have admissions. I think, yeah, here. So basically most accept they have deadline. They said internal deadline is January 1 for fall. So you can already write January 1 in your scholarship tracker as your deadline. So you see gradually we actually already January 1st. So 1st January, sorry, I wrote it that way, just manage it. So the minimum CGPA, you can find it on the website. I would not go through all this anymore. So this potential advisor is typically, who's your advisor, right? The person who you are interested in. So you just go to the faculty page. They always have a faculty page. I think is the easiest. So you can see faculty people here. So you can see faculty. So you can already go to their faculty page and you already see faculty. So you can click on them and actually see what they do. And then if you like them, you put them on your list. If you don't like their face and you don't want to join their lab, it's also your business. So you can decide that. So yeah. So other specialty, you can put the website link here so that anytime you want, you can actually just put the website so that you can reach out to the website anytime you want. And other special requirement, if there are certain things that are actually special about the schools, you can also do that. For Erasmus and Commonwealth, you can simply just write University of whatever, maybe Exeter or Newcastle University, country, UK, graduate program, Commonwealth, food security or whatnot, and then you populate it as normal. So when you do this, actually, it allows you to actually know when you now look at this TOEFL side and you see most of the applications are having not applicable. Then why do I really need to write TOEFL, right? Even if my friends, all of them are writing TOEFL, I don't need it because the schools I want to apply to don't require that. So you make a decision based on data. Very important, right? So now we quickly go back to our demo. We're done with this, and then this is basically a recap of everything I've talked about, right? So I said you start with what is or are your areas of interest. What are you interested in, right? You decide whether you want a master's or you want a PhD. Very important. And then you decide what is or are your countries of choice. What's your preferred study location? Some people say, I don't like too much cold. I don't want to go to Canada, right? That's your business. If you say, I want sun, I want to go to Saudi Arabia, this is also business. There are different criteria to make choices, right? Some people say, yeah, I want to go to Umrah often. If you're in Saudi, one of my friends, he's enjoying that. He's going to Umrah with his family and everything. So if you want that, you can actually also, get, if that is your priority, this is very important. You actually make that conscious thought. You don't just shoot without reason, right? There should be a reason if it's not genuine. So what scholarship programs are available to you? Now you've made choices. Here, you MSc or PhD, you might say both, or you might say, I already have my master's, I'm preferring programs that actually give me your PhD. So you make your choices here, you make your choices here, and based on this, you make choices here. What scholarship programs are then available to you? So you don't go and apply to physics program when you're in biology field, or you apply to medical programs when you're not even in the medical field. This is very important. And then you decide whether you write or not to write standardized exams. This is what I now say, you make your decision based on data. So if you decide to write standardized exams, you really don't also have to pay all the money. Do you want to actually do self-funding? If you have the money, pay it, of course. Like I said, the person that actually prepared $300 for application fee, she paid her TOEFL money herself, right? So very important. For me, then, I mean, I remember, I think it was the federal government scholarship. I used part of the money to pay. But then, if you're not self-funding, then you can seek funding support, right? You can actually look out for funding support, and funding support can be in form of what the ISI scholarships, the Michael Taiwo, the Edu USA program. And this is a very interesting tip, right? This is why you need to have a structured thinking style to make the most of the graduate school application, because only when you do that will you be able to intentionally and strategically prepare and position yourself to make the most of it. Now imagine you already know 6-7 months ahead of time that you will need to write IELTS or TOEFL or GRE. And then you actively, because you know you don't have the money, you actively already keeping an eye on ISI and Michael Taiwo and Edu USA programs. When they now open up, what happens is that you already apply. You apply with the sole reason that I need them as a bridge to get me from not writing IELTS and GRE to actually writing them. And when you actually get them, you write them. At the end of the day, you spend nothing, but you achieve your goal. But if you don't know and you waited till like maybe a month before or even when the application was open and you realize I have to write IELTS, or even waited too late, the application closes, you are not able to apply, and at the end of the day, you're like, I now know I have to write IELTS, but I didn't know beforehand that I needed to write it, or I didn't even know about these programs. So this is why it's important, like I said, to really get your first steps really, really in order and ensure that you are really organized in the whole of the process. So thank you very much all for listening, and I think this is the last end of my slide. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abdulmalik, for that concise and elaborative insight. In fact, we would love to continue to hear you, but time is not by our side. So, yeah, just like we said earlier, more of a compensation for those that are still on the call to this very moment. We'll be having the panel session now, and trust me, you won't want to miss this too, because you've learned from one person. Now you are not learning from about three people how they actually did this. So without further ado, we'll be moving on to the panel session, and then the topic, as you must have known, is from aspiration to admission, real stories of graduate scholars. How did they do it? I'm sure you should be anticipating this now. So for that for that session, we have three speakers, as I've said. The first speaker is a scholar par excellence and is by name Abdulmujeeb Muhammad. So you can signify by probably raising your hand or so. And for recognition, sir, he is a master student in public health, global health, University of Nottingham. Then the second speaker is Ridwanullah Abimbola, master in applied Islamic ethics, Ahmad bin Khalifa University. And then the third speaker will be Taofik Ahmad Suleiman, a joint PhD student at Georgia Tech and Emory University. Wow, these are big fishes. Permit me to use that word. So we brought very great people, and I can assure you, you would not want to miss this session. So just a run through of their profile. Abdulmujeeb Muhammad-Olodo is a master student in public health, Global Health University of Nottingham, project delivery officer at IFC Healthcare, MBBS graduates from University of Ilorin, housemanship at Area Specialist Hospital, researcher in health equity and policy. He loves to travel, service, and multicultural experience. Now to the second speaker. Next slide, please. To the second speaker, we have Ridwanullah Abimbola, as I've said, a master in applied Islamic ethics. Then in Qatar, yeah, ethicists with focus on youth, family, and Muslim society, presented at World Congress of Bioethics, thesis in Islamic ethics and video games, and Bachelor of Arts in Islamic Studies in University of Ilorin, and postgraduate in University of Lagos. Lifelong learner with a passion for learning and teaching and research. And to the last speaker, without wasting much of our time, we have uh, Taofik Ahmad Suleiman, a joint PhD student at Georgia Tech and Emory University, Bachelor of Engineering in Biomedical Engineering, University of Ilorin as well. Wow. So Erasmus scholar and Masters in Medical Imaging, research on AI for medical imaging, internship at ENCOV in France, Duke University. Wow, this is a lot. Published researcher and passionate mentor. In fact, I think I need to congratulate everyone that's still on the call by now, because I can assure you are going to learn a lot from this session. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now we'll be starting with the first speaker. So we need to learn, how do you exactly, get this done? I mean, from aspiration to the accomplishment. I mean, how what were the things you did? We want to learn practical things. I mean, learn from your stories. And by this time next year, we want to see people that would actually take the same path and then become scholars too. So let's get started, sir. I'm sorry, we really can't hear you. I don't know. Okay, it's better now.
All right. Thank you very much for your patience, and thanks to the first speaker. I think I even learned one or two things, especially the fact that it was mostly focused on the USA pathway. There's always the USA versus UK arguments, whatever. So it was nice to see another US person try and flaunt their country. And as you could after that, well, Trump, and I'm not sure. So moving forward, where will I start from? So the journey started from back in medical school. I guess I would say that for this might seem a bit more inclined towards the medical people that are on the call because they may be able to relate to a couple of the struggles. So the first thing was the realization on what I did not want to do, and that kind of set the ball rolling. However, I would admit that I never really had an end goal in mind. I've always been the person to just um, go with whatever it is that, whatever situation it is I found myself. However, in my fourth year, I guess the realization as to other opportunities that exist in medicine kind of came to light. That was when I attended a conference by one of our past seniors. So they organized a graduating conference, and I attended that. And a couple of people, I don't know if anyone knows, this Nigeria flying doctor, Dr. Ola Brown, one of the and two other panelists were in that conference, and they were all medical doctors, but were not clinical doctors. So that was like the first light into, or should I say, out of the whole clinical medicine thing. It wasn't like I wasn't like looking for an escape route. I was just looking for a way to not, um, a way to just stop seeing cases that were otherwise avoidable to begin with. A lot of cases that came to the hospital were in my best interest, were avoidable cases. It was just because of the poor system that we had, and it seemed like these people were doing amazing work on the outside. On the good side, they knew that they're doing amazing work and they had this work-life balance kind of thing. On the downside, you not necessarily get to see the amazing work you do until after a very long time. That's like the long and short of the story. But I'm not one for immediate positivity anyway, so it seemed like a fair trade to me. So moving forward, everything I'm going to be saying is a retrospective diagnosis in this case. So, um, I'm saying it in sorry, I say retrospective diagnosis. Like everything I'm saying now is just coming up from like looking back in time as to how all the things were set, all the things that have brought me here now were just aligning, and not necessarily because I put them in plan. So the only thing I think I would be consciously admitting is the fact that I knew what I did not want to do, which was to stay in the hospital. Now, moving forward, what I did back then, I knew that I needed to involve myself a lot in school, in extracurricular activities. I liked traveling, to be honest, and there are a couple of conferences. So this journey hasn't been exactly easy. It's been a bit capital intensive, um, and it's been stressful, especially when you have to combine extracurricular activities with schoolwork. I think every single panelist and even the last speaker emphasized on the fact that you may not necessarily, most of it is not necessarily academic work. It's some of it has been, especially for scholarships. If you are applying for scholarships, a lot of it always come down to what did you do outside school. What were the leadership qualities that prove, what are the qualities that you possess that prove that you're actually a leader in wherever it is that you might be. The one mistake that a lot of people usually tend to have, think is that they'll be wondering that they need to like be the president of their student association, or do they have to be, you do not necessarily have to be any. In fact, you can just be a class rep, or you can just be a member of your class, but you do certain things that show that you're a leader in that situation. And not necessarily everybody has to be a leader, but leadership qualities are shown when you can sort out certain problems that people might be facing at a particular point in time. I had a friend in medical school who, he was not, in fact, I'm using him as an example here. He was not our class rep, but what he did back then was anytime we had lectures, the lecture slides that were supposed to be provided, he brought it upon himself to create Google Google Drive, whatever, for that, and created it in a class name. And he was always uploading things to such an extent that when it was time for us to get senators just represent us on the faculty level, he was the one that people pushed to become the senator of the class, and it was actually a big deal back then. And he's doing well for himself anyway right now. So that's just one thing. Trying to sort out people's problems even without them asking, it saves a lot of things. However, to be where most of us are, there's going to be a lot of combining classes with extracurricular activities. It could be joining the medical student, it could be joining the student association of your, the MSS in your school, the branch in your school. It could be joining the medical student association of your school itself. It could just be even going for conferences, trying to present. In recent years, it's been amazing seeing that a lot of medical students are beginning to travel around to present their abstracts and research and whatever in different conferences. I think that has been amiable. In our time, it wasn't that popular, I think, but I think the tides are changing. And this also means that if you are still in school, the competition is getting a bit tougher, to be honest. The people that you are competing with are people whose academic life is tailored to their success. It's sad to say that a lot of times in Nigeria, you actually have to fight for a lot of things that should not even be fought for in the first place. So it was after getting here, I realized that we we are really a bit backwards in certain things that we do. Ordinarily, you have passed on to proving otherwise, but the principle might be different. So whilst you are trying to balance extracurricular, and everybody might say that it's not necessarily academic, you actually also need to do very well in school. You know, school tells the recruitment of this person can actually balance things that you're not.
So we can hear you well.
Sorry, can you still
It's breaking. Can
you should
it's probably your microphone or so, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's your phone. You can try quitting the call and joining back.
let me see.
We can hear you,
Still
but the
the
audio is
same.
not good. The audio is not good. Yeah.
The call back. Yeah, hello, am I audible now?
Yeah, very much better. We can.
I think I should just stick to the audio instead of putting on the video as well. Maybe that's the problem. Sorry about that. So, because I know there's other participants on this page, so and they might be able to highlight some other things. So basically, getting to where I am now, after leaving school, I had to do my housemanship. It was pretty straightforward. process. Do your housemanship, do your NYC and whatever. But during my housemanship, I also a lot of times I found myself being either we were just one or two people in the unit, and I did my house job in a place where was in the south, was a Lassa. I don't okay, everybody knows Lassa fever. Somehow you heard of it in the past. So I did my housemanship in a place where there was a lot of Lassa fever patients. So they even had an institute that was dedicated to viral hemorrhagic research. So I found myself having to deal with those kind of situations and having to take care of patients that were in that. So that was coupled up to my experience. The previous panelists spoke a lot about making your experiences matter and writing a compelling essay. So I don't think I'll be touching much on that unless particular questions come to that. Then getting the scholarship. I am a Commonwealth shared scholar. I came to know about the scholarship honestly because of a senior colleague of mine whom I took. Okay, backstory. So I ran a lot of medical students here might know about the book called The Guide. So when I was in school, I was the person handling the production and the distribution of that particular handbook that is the guide. So my predecessor was a Commonwealth scholar in the University of Oxford. And when I found out he became a scholar in the University of Oxford, I reached out to him to ask him um, the whole process and everything and how he got to do it and all that. And this just goes to tie down with what the previous panelist said that you actually have to have someone that is in the game already or someone that is willing to talk to you. So no one is an island, honestly. So he was one that pulled me through. I had to pick so personally I picked University of Nottingham because so the previous panelist also said that usually a lot of people don't apply to just one school. He's not wrong. I applied to actually just one school for my. So I applied to a couple of schools, University of Nottingham and University of Oxford. But based on the kind of person I am, I felt like my application was stronger for University of Nottingham because they had what I wanted. So you actually have to look through the schools what do you call it brochure, like what they have to offer to know how it fits into your own kind of person. I'd applied to, so there's been a lot of L's in the past. But I don't think we're celebrating L's today. So I'd applied to Erasmus Mundus, I didn't get in. I'd applied to um Vitamin Hoffman scholarship, didn't get in. I applied to Oxford, didn't get in. I'd applied to, so the L's are quite plenty to be honest. But when the Commonwealth came, I applied to it once and I got in. So Alhamdulillah. So I think everything builds up to the experience of not refusing to say no and just continuing to push at it till you possibly get something. So that being said, um I think that's just it. So that being said, a lot of things have been mentioned by the other participants, and trying to create a portfolio of the things, yeah, keeping track of all your experiences because eventually it ties down to how your story might be. You may not have. I was not the best student at all. In fact, I was far from it. I was not the best academician back in school, but I would like to say I had a lot of audacity, to be honest, and um and yes, I think the biggest motivating factor again as well was the kind of mentors that I had around. The previous partner mentioned the recommendation letter. The recommendation letter process can be a bit draining, but it's very, very necessary that you actually create a rapport with the people that you are going to require to write your letters for you. It goes a long way in the turnout of things eventually. One of my mentors actually was a Commonwealth scholar in the 90s as well. And I got to know after I won the Commonwealth scholarship that he was also actually a Commonwealth scholar. So it was nice having to get one of the mentors being a Commonwealth scholar as well. So it kind of tallies to the whole end game as to how your application is going to be. It's also necessary and it's also good to have a mentor that actually is willing to stick their neck out for you. There's a difference between a person that between a generic recommendation letter like all this. So I have known this student for the past couple of years. He's a diligent student. Than a lecturer. I have a friend whose recommendation letter whose recommendation letter was about 3 pages from the VC of his school, and he's currently finishing in University of St. Johns Hopkins anyway. So so I won't take much time and allow other panelists have their say. If any particular question comes my way, then I'll be willing to answer. Jazakallah khair.
Wow, yeah, thank you very much. I mean, very much for that, you know, elaborative insight. Now, yeah, just like you said, so we'll be having question and answer towards the end. I mean, after the closing remark, then we'll open the floor to question. So yeah, we'll be moving on to the next speaker, Ridwanullah Abimbola. But like, yeah, we are far behind the schedule, and also, I don't know, 10 to 12 minutes, like, yeah, something like that. So thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead, Sir Ridwanullah Abimbola. Would like to hear from you, sir.
I think you are muted.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone on the call. My name is Ridwan, and it's my pleasure to be a part of this interesting call. And I'd like to thank the entirety of the NGN team, the mentor, and every other person who's deserving of accolades and the academic excellence team. So, without much ado, a lot has been said, and it's been interesting. Um, my postgraduate story, because the first item I have here is that before I go to my story, is that every postgraduate scholar has a story. And I think this has been reiterated by every other speaker, the first and the second. And I'm saying that again. So yours is not going to be different. When I was asked to turn in my bio, my profile, I was very sure and particularly intentional about not writing something so flowery so that you begin to think that, oh, if I don't have this rich profile, I won't make a scholarship. If I don't have a rich profile like the one or like the rest of the panelists, maybe I'm not destined for a scholarship, but it's not like that. And I'm very glad that the second speaker said exactly the same thing, that you don't have to be the best student before you qualify for this. Honestly, it's not about being the best. But of course, being very, very good, being the best really helps you. So there are things I like you to take notes as you aspire for postgraduate application, and this is very crucial. The first thing is that the strength of your application, I mean, the success of your application depends on several factors. One of them is the strength of your application. Um, if you are applying for a program, before you set up out there for your application, you have to test yourself. You have to scale yourself. You have to weigh yourself. You have to evaluate yourself. How strong is my application? How strong is my motivation letter? How strong is my experience, my profile? Do I have published papers to strengthen my application? Do I have cognate experience that is relevant to the application I'm submitting? Do I have other things? Maybe I've taken courses, perhaps during my bachelor's or extra courses, maybe on Coursera that aligns with the program I'm applying for. So the second thing is the strength of your of the competition. So there is this interesting proverb that our fathers say that permit me to say this in Yoruba, and I'll try to translate in English. They say that "Bó ni ṣe rí ọ̀la ò rí bẹ́ẹ̀, òun ló dífá fún babaláwo tó ń dífá ọ̀rọ̀ ọ̀run," that the reality of today differs from the reality of tomorrow or yesterday, so that it requires you to make renewed efforts or to have renewed expectations or different expectations every time. So let's say you're applying for a program in a particular university this year, and you're submitting this application. That application you're submitting that very year, if you submit the same application for the same program in the same university, might have a different outcome. Do you see? And I'm going to give you a very practical example of this. So there is a candidate at the moment who's applying to my alma mater, I mean, Khalifa University, for one of the programs. And he graduated as not only as the best student in his program, but as the best in the whole of the university he attended. Imagine that, with a massive CGPA, massive CGPA, 4.9 something. And unfortunately, as at the moment we speak, his name is on the wait list. And the only reason he had this private information was because, he has this very good connection with the professors, which is going to be a part of my point. So now the program wants to admit just two candidates, two international candidates, and they have hundreds of applications. So imagine that people from all over the world are applying for a program, and the program wants just two candidates. Now you're coming with the first class, but your first class is 4.50, and someone is coming with the first class, but their first class is 4.7, and someone is coming with the first class, but their first class is 4.9. Now there is someone coming with the first class and a first master's program, a first master's degree, and they're applying for the same program. Now their application is stronger than yours because they have a research experience. Do you understand? Someone is coming for the program, was applying for the program, but they have relevant research experience. The application is stronger than yours if they also have the same profile you have. Okay, they have a first class, a 4.50, but they have a published paper in a respected journal. Theirs is stronger than yours. So you can see how these things come together to determine the fate of the application. And this is why you never should stop applying. You should always try to apply. You should keep showing up. You should be resilient. Because if you think, oh, my application is, I submitted this application this year, but I wasn't admitted, you never can tell whether the following year, the competition might be weaker, and you might get in. Or perhaps you've done some things, you've done some upgrades to your program, and that gets you into the program. So I want you to take note of these three things so that you don't get discouraged when you keep applying and you don't get into the program. And of course, you are advised to diversify your application. And the fourth thing I think really matters in the success of your application is your interest in the program. When you establish a relationship with the professors in the program you're applying for, you are increasing your chances because they want to see how passionate you are about the program. Of course, how knowledgeable you are about the program. A lot of the time when you sit for an interview, if you've gone through the application stage, if you're sitting for an interview, the bulk of the question you're asked are not technical questions. Let's say you're applying for a program in, let's say, counseling psychology, for example. It's not really very likely that they will ask you during the interview to tell us, to explain. They cannot ask you to talk about perhaps Rombeck's cognitive therapy. Most likely they won't ask you a question like that. They might just ask you questions like, okay, so what do you know about the program? Can you mention some of the top courses in this program? Why you're applying for this program? What do you intend to take out of this program? So your interest is going to come to the fore here, and when they see that you're passionate about the program, by the level of knowledge you exhibit, perhaps it's going to increase your chances. So my story, the first item here, I said there is this book. I think it was written in honor of Wole Soyinka, I think, or was it Chinua Achebe? The title is "You Must Set Forth at Dawn." That's the title of the book. But here I'm saying that you must set forth pre-dawn. I finished my bachelor's in 2017, and I started applying to international opportunities before that time. I think during maybe 2015. And the first school I applied to, I think, was in China. I did this Jasmine application in China. I wasn't successful. Then after that, I applied to Qatar University. The title of the book, "You Must Set Forth at Dawn," is the title. But I am telling you that if you're looking for a scholarship, because of the competition out there, you must set forth pre-dawn, before the dawn. So you have to begin the journey earlier than you should. Do you understand? And I should say this again. A lot of the time people tell you, oh, school is calm, don't make your life about books alone. Well, that's not entirely true, because the things you do during your bachelor's will help you when you're applying for your master's. If you are a bookworm, it's very good for you. Be a bookworm, and of course, like the first panelist said, do other things, volunteer, do a lot of other things, a lot of extracurricular. They will help you strengthen your application. But you have to set forth pre-dawn. Get started before you are done. Don't finish your bachelor's then you start thinking of applications, because by that time you might have missed out on some requirements. So have it in your mind that I'm finishing my bachelor's and I'm aiming for international scholarship. So this is going to help you prepare. You're going to prepare in terms of your CGPA, in terms of the research, like the first speaker said, the research title you're working on, the purpose discovery you're working with, and a host of other things. So you have to set for pre-done. Then I applied to Qatar University for this diploma program in Arabic. I was not successful. I paid. Now I paid. I was a bachelor student. I think I paid 50 riyal at that time, 2015, and it was painful. But I felt like perhaps because I didn't have a bachelor's. So the following year, after my service, I applied again, paid 50 riyal, got stronger recommendation letters, from big borders. Unfortunately, I was not successful again. So that means I applied twice and I paid application fee twice, but none worked out. It was very painful. It was discouraging. Then the next thing is too close to success. In 2019, I applied to Abdulaziz University, and I got this email, I think in January of 2019, that my application had scaled through the first stage and it's been transferred to the Ministry of Education. And that was something very good. And I'm a very, very personal person, so I was so prayerful. I didn't tell anyone except the person that was helping me pursue the admission that time. So I thought, oh, inshallah, by the end of the year, I'm going to Saudi. So I was hoping that something would happen. I kept expecting. At some point, I had nothing again. I was trying to even log in on my portal. I was denied access. What's happening? Then I had to, before the end of the year, start my program at University of Lagos, my PhD program. Alhamdulillah, then at the same time I started other programs. So there are times that you are too close to success, but that success won't happen because it's not your time. So don't feel dejected, don't feel unfortunate, don't feel, oh yeah, this thing is not meant for me. Nah, it is meant for you, but it's not your time yet. So it happened to me. I was so close to success, but it never happened to me. The third point I have is shoot for the moon. If you lose, it will land you among the stars. Now, when you're applying for scholarships, don't do one scholarship. Apply to a lot of schools, a lot of programs. If I open my archive for you, I have a special archive which I titled Credentials and Photos. I have different applications, Bristol, Nottingham, a lot of universities that I got admitted into. I tried Commonwealth, I wasn't successful. Commonwealth Distance Scholarship, not successful. I tried, what's the other thing? This Chevening, not successful. I got admission to all the universities I applied to, but the scholarship, none happened. It got to a point, where someone advised me, Ridwan, you're being too honest in your application. You have to tell some stories that are touching. You have to tell stories, say something like you're an orphan, say something like you've done this, magnify and amplify your achievements so that you can. I said, no, I am not. I don't belong to that school of thought. At some point, I was told, one, if you want to go to the Gulf countries to read, you have to reduce your age, the age on your passport, you're too old, this. I said, hey, if anything is meant for me, it's going to come for me without me being dishonest. So I said, no, I'm not doing this. Whatever is in my portion is going to come for me. I did not alter my age. It was really scary because that was a trend. I know people who were 40 years and they were claiming 18, 19, 20 years old. So, and I don't know how you can justify this. Yeah, people try to rationalize it, but then it doesn't fit my conscience that you have to change your age because you want something. If it is meant for you, wallah, it is going to be yours. And if it is not meant for you, it is not going to be yours. And one of my favorite verses of Quran, I believe a lot of people here on the call are Muslims. One of my favorite verses is the first verse of the second verse of Surah Al-Fatiha, that مَا يَفْتَحِ اللَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ مِنْ رَحْمَةٍ فَلَا مُمْسِكَ لَهَا. If Allah has granted you a blessing, a benefit, no one can deny you. No one can obstruct that thing from getting to you. And if he denies you of the thing, there is no one on earth that can bring it to you. Whether you change your age or anything, it is not going to come to you. And this is going to lead me to the next point. When it is your time, I saw this somewhere. I don't know who said this, but the person said, when it's your time to win, you will never lose. When it's your time to win, you will never lose. Ladies and gentlemen, my admission came to me in my room on WhatsApp. Trust me, it was really, it was dramatic. My admission came on WhatsApp. So what happened was, same program I finished from, it was the program I wanted to study. I wanted to apply Islamic ethics before I even knew any university was offering it. And when I was making my research, I found the university, which is the only university in the world that offers that program because it's a very new program. So I was very happy that, so Allah had prepared this program for me in this university. So I applied in 2019. I wasn't successful. I applied in 2020. I wasn't successful. Now, let me say this. During my bachelor's, my target was to make it first class, and every semester, my target was 5.0. But as Allah would want it, I did not make it first class. It was very painful. I missed it by a whisker. And for that reason, I didn't want to go for my convocation. And even my classmates were very sad. And but I said, Alhamdulillah, maybe Allah has a reason for it. But then it always affected me whenever I was applying for a scholarship, and I would think like maybe if I had a first class, I would have this opportunity. But then, trust me, your result is not the limitation to your success. So I applied in 2020, 2019, I couldn't make it. 2020, I could not make it. Meanwhile, one of my junior colleagues made the first class from the same program I finished from. He got an interview for the same university but for a different program. But it was not about the scholarship. I wasn't even invited for it. But in 2023, I got an invitation and I spoke with him. Oh, bro, I got invited for this scholarship. What do you have to say? Please give me your advice. So he gave his tips, and the interview was perfect. I mean, it was perfect. Nothing was amiss. But at the end of the scholarship, I didn't hear anything from them, and I was wondering what happened. Well, I already moved on. Trust me, I already moved on. Then I think it was 2 months after that time. Then I got a mail on my phone. I think it was. Then I was wondering. Like they said, one of my documents was missing. I should submit one reference letter. I was like, you whine me. I beg, leave me alone, Jerry. Don't give me love letter now. So why are you disturbing? I disregarded the email. I didn't respond to it. Then I think 3 days after that time, I got another email. Now it was on a Sunday, and I had a panel discussion on that very same day at the wedding in my town. So I just got home and I finished the presentation and I opened my email. Hammad, Khalifa University College of Islamic Services, one of your documents is missing. Please submit. I was like, well, this is looking real. Now, I was waiting for Monday to come so that I could talk to the ED of my NGO to write a letter for me. So the following Monday, I was already talking with her when I got a message on WhatsApp. It's an international number. Hello, salam alaikum. I am this from this university. I was like, seriously? Like I jumped out of the bed. Oh, this is looking so real. So then I said, I'm on it. I'm preparing it now. I will send it very soon. So I did that. I got the letter. I submitted it. Then, as a Yoruba boy, I went the following day to thank her. Thank you for coming to my DM. I'm so thankful. And I stylishly asked for my chances. She said, okay, we'll look through your documents and everything is perfect. If you submit this last document and they go through it, perhaps you offer this a scholarship. I couldn't tell anyone. I was just thanking Allah. I was just praying to Allah. Allah, don't flash me with this blessing, Ya Allah. Don't flash me with this blessing. Make it mine. So then 2 days, I think it was on a Monday, and on Thursday, I took my father to the hospital. I was sitting in the ward. Okay, my time is over, right?
Yes,
okay, I'm going to round up now. Okay, I'm going to round up. So then I was just pressing my phone, and I just got a mail, and I just slumped in institute. Like, I just went to institute, honestly, and that was it. That was it. So when it's your time to win, trust me, you will never lose. If it is not your time, you will be very close, but you will not have it. So, I did everything, my scholarship, my papers, I did everything under 28 days. And I traveled, like I was even writing an exam when I was meant to travel. So it was very tired, but alhamdulillah, it worked, and the rest they say is history. So don't get discouraged. Keep trying, keep being resilient, go for the best, shoot for the moon, and inshallah, your time is going to come, and you also have a story to tell. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that story. In fact, it touched me because it's a story of persistence and dogmatism. May Allah continue to grant you more success. So yeah, we'll be moving on to the next speaker now. It is unfortunate that we spent a lot of time, but we still have a little time to hear a lot from him. So we hope to get a lot within the limited time. So the next speaker, the floor is open for you, sir. Brother Taofik, Bismillah.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Hi everyone. A lot of speakers have already talked, and yeah, Abdul Kabir already said a lot of things, so I won't bother to explain in detail how things work, but I'll definitely talk about how I got my offer and everything. So one thing I'll tell you is that every scholar you see has some challenges before the success story. So this is just a way to encourage everyone. Right now, if you feel like you are getting a lot of rejection, you have applied to so many scholarships, don't give up because we all have our own share of the story. So always see every rejection as a redirection, a way to refocus your energy, see what you have done wrong, how you can go through it, and then move on. Yes, it takes time. So that being said, so basically for me, I was a bit lucky because I was exposed to scholarship very early during my undergraduate. A lot of people started knowing about scholarship after they graduated. For me, it was during my undergraduate. I was in the same room. So I graduated from Unilorry, right? So then we got free accommodation when I was in Unilorry. So and I was in the same room with several scholars. We call them scholars then. So we were in the same room with I was in the same room with several scholars back then. And these scholars, they were my senior. Like, for example, I was in a room, I was a 200 level then, but the one of my roommates who was in his final year, he was a scholar and all. So when I got to my 300 level, we were very close. So when I got to my 300 level, I noticed he got the Erasmus Mundo scholarship and he was already out of Nigeria. So I was like, oh wow, scholar, you are already out of Nigeria. How did you do it? And he told me that have I heard of the Erasmus Mundo scholarship before? Then I was in 300 level. That was 2017, and I was like, no, I never heard of it. And he said, okay. He shared me the catalog. He asked me to go through it, pick a program, and let him know that he started preparing also when he was in his third year. Then immediately he graduated, he got it. I was like, okay, that's great. So immediately I searched for program. I picked three. He asked me to pick three programs. So I picked three programs. He told me, oh, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to do this. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So from my 300 level, I started doing I did a lot of leadership experience. I did a lot of, try to get a lot of experience. When I tried to do my internship in places that matters, I was sharp preparing myself, right? So, to cut the long story short, in my final year, I decided to apply for the Erasmus Mundo scholarship. So when I applied for the Erasmus Mundo scholarship, I got invited for the interview in my final year. So, but as at then, I mean, I thought I'll get it because most of the impression is that oh, once you get invited for interview, you definitely get the scholarship. So I was very happy. I did the interview. The interview went really well, but I mean, they always laugh, they always smile with you to think that the interview is great, right? So at the end of it anyway, I was not accepted. So that was in my final year. But it was a good experience for me because I mean, I'm just in my final year and I applied for a scholarship and I made it to the final year. So that gave me hope that yes, this can work. And aside from that, that also give a lot of my friends hope. Um, I can categorically say the first speaker who gave us the introduction to graduate school and everything, we are very close friends and we have been on this journey right from our bachelors. So we're all motivated by that interview, right? And we created a group because of that, just for us. It was where it was six of us. We created the group. Eventually, we're up to 10 in the group, just friends. And we started, okay, now that we are graduated, we are preparing for service, let's apply for graduate school. We all started the application. We were taking each other all along and along the way. Sometimes I remember, let's say I want to apply for five scholarship. When I tell Abdul Kabir, if Abdul Kabir initially wanted to apply for three scholarship, he'll be like, you applied to five, or more, I will increase it to. The next time I'll speak to Abdul Kabir, he'll be like, oh, now I'm applying to seven. We keep motivating. That's like a healthy competition anyway. We keep motivating each other that way. So at the end of it, after I graduated, I applied to more than 18 scholarship actually. And trust me, like I said, I didn't get all the 18 right. In fact, I get rejection upon rejection. In fact, I think the first 10 decisions were all rejection. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on? In my final year, I applied to just one scholarship and I made it to the interview. What is going on? I thought it would be easy. But the good thing is that apart from the fact that I prepared for the moment, I also applied to as many as possible. I didn't just say, oh, I'll apply to one scholarship. So sometimes there is benefit in the number. In as much as your application has a lot of quality, it's always good to increase the number. So at the end of it all, I got three scholarship. That was immediately after I graduated anyway. I was still serving at then when the offer came in. So I got two PhD offer in US and I also got Erasmus Mundus scholarship. Mind you, I graduated to first class, so I know some of you might want to ask, so what do you I graduated to first class? But however, it's not just about your grade. So there are a lot of things involved. Some of you might ask that, oh, you got PhD offer in US. Do you have any publication? I also put it out there. I didn't have any publication. So there's no like two-way to apply for scholarship. It's a holistic review. Everybody have their unique profile. You can't have it all complete. You try your best to see how much you can have and then work towards it. There are things you can change and there are things you cannot change. Don't focus on things you cannot change and wallow on it. Instead, focus on things you can change. Example, some people will be like, oh, I graduated with a 2.1, oh, I graduated with a 2.2, my CGPA is low, this, that, that. Why should you focus on what you cannot change? Your CGPA is low, fine and good. You cannot change that. But there are several other things you can change. For example, getting relevant experience, doing leadership experience, trying to collaborate with friends to publish papers, writing the GRE. There are several things you can change that is within your power. Why should you wallow at it? So I remember back then one of the story of my friend when he was applying for the Erasmus. The first program. This my friend he graduated with over 4.7 something, so it's a good grade. So he applied for the Erasmus Mundus scholarship. He was rejected, but in the same group that he was, another person that was selected for this Erasmus scholarship actually graduated from with 2.1. Just imagine, he graduated the first class, he applied for the scholarship, was rejected, but another person that was selected, I mean, they were all in, there are a lot of scholarship groups. So he found the person in that scholarship group, and the person was selected, and he realized that the person actually graduated with 2.1. So, which means if you are here right now and you have a first class and you are hoping that, oh, since I have a first class, I'll surely get scholarship. First class alone is not going to give you the scholarship. But it will give you an edge. So all you have to do now is to take advantage of that edge. The same way, if you currently you are not in first class and you're like, oh, the road will be very difficult for me. Of course, it will be difficult. Trust me, it's not a matter of your grade. Even those in first class, the road is difficult. But the most important thing is that what can you do? What are the unique things you can do? Try and do that, and it will be good. So then when I got the this offer, I decided to go for the Erasmus Mundus scholarship and I rejected the two US offer. Some people will be, oh, that's crazy, but it's a matter of personal preference and the research I wanted to do, the area I was interested in. So I did the Erasmus. When I was going for the Erasmus, I already knew I am going to I want to do a PhD in the same US. But this Erasmus is going to give me the experience I need to get into the program I am really interested in. So, to cut the long story short, planning ahead is very important. Even as I'm going into the Erasmus, I already know when I need to apply for the scholarship. I already start preparing. So, after my first year in Erasmus, we have during break, the break was for us, but I decided to use it to do an internship. Why did I do that? It's not a mandatory internship. We are not required to do an internship. But I applied for internship and I got one in France and I decided to do it. Why? Because I know having an international experience will also enhance my portfolio, right? So I did the internship and eventually my master thesis, I came to US from Europe to do it at Duke University, which is also a top school. So, and at the same time, I applied for PhD. I applied, despite my Erasmus and the experience I have, I didn't say, oh, I'll apply to only one school. I still applied to I applied for about 13 schools in the US. I mean, they are mainly top school anyway, but I applied for about 13 schools in the US. And at the end of it all, I only got three. I was still rejected in most of them. So that's for you to know that rejection is always inevitable. So when you see my profile and you're like, oh, you are in Georgia Tech, you are in Emory, oh, this is a top school. It's not always as it seems, in the sense that it's not like, oh, it just come easily. I applied to John Hopkins, I was rejected. I applied to UC Berkeley, I was rejected. I applied to Harvard, I was rejected. So I can keep the list going. So what I'm saying in essence is that it's not just that, oh, I just enter where I am right now. There are a lot of work you need to put in place, which are important. And during my Erasmus, at that time now, I try to collaborate and publish. In fact, Before I applied for the second, the PhD again, that is when I was doing my Erasmus, I eventually already have about four publications, and yet I still had a lot of rejection, right? So what I'm trying to say is that if you are currently in this journey, rejection is almost inevitable. There are some scholars, I have some mentee that got um accepted without any rejection, like just one application and they got accepted. But these are very rare cases, right? So always know rejection is inevitable. All you have to do is every rejection you have, use it as a direction. Some people, everybody have different timelines. Some people get scholarship immediately they start applying, like myself and some of my friends. Why some people get scholarship after 2 years of application, 3 years of application, 4 years of application, even 5 years of application, as the case may be. But the most important thing is never giving up. Once you keep pushing, you keep doing the right thing, trust me, you are going to get it. And finally, what I'll end this with is you should also know that in this journey, mentorship is very important. You don't have to do it alone. Try to seek mentors. Sometimes a lot of people are busy with different people, but you can reach out to several people, try to seek mentor, try to join some scholarship group, do things the right way, prepare a profile. It's very difficult. I usually tell people that applying for scholarship is a full-time job. I mean, that doesn't mean you should quit your job, but you have to have some. If you are working full time already, you have to do some night shifts. That is, maybe during the day is your full time work. The scholarship is now your night shift. It's definitely a full time job. Trust me, because you need a scholarship tracker. If not that I'm not sharing my screen, I could easily show you my scholarship tracker where you see how I track all the schools I'm applying to. So it's usually not an easy process. So don't just apply to one school, two school, and you'll be like, oh, I get rejected. Oh, this. Sometimes I meet with people and they'll be like, oh, I've been applying to so many scholarship and I've been rejected. And I'll be like, so far, how many scholarship have you applied for? And they'll be like, five. And in my head, I'll be like, you apply for five scholarship and you're complaining what's going on here. So some of us, like I said, beyond the story is lies a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice. So you wanna, like, if you're not ready to put in that hard work, it doesn't just come easy, right? So these are life-changing opportunity. So you might want to make sure you merit it, basically, because people are applying from all over the world, right? So um, finally, planning is the most important thing. So, according to Winston Churchill, he who failed to plan has planned to fail. Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that matters. So, always take every rejection as a redirection, keep applying, and there is a scholarship for everyone. If you have questions, I'm glad to answer for sure.
Yeah, thank you very much, Taofik, for that session. In fact, oh, I think what I would, note from your story is a story of not giving up. I mean, keep pushing, keep applying, and yeah, it will surely come off one day. So yeah, we'll be before the question and answer segment. We would like to hear from our grand mentor. Who okay? Don't worry, I'm noting your hand. You can just have your hand raised. Yeah, I'm noting those ends. But before that, we would like to hear from our grand mentor, who was the person that built this community. I mean, it's not easy to have a community that has been standing for decades and then imparting lives and all. So, in the person of our engineer, Nosil Giwa, our grand mentor, so he would just like to give some kind of closing remark. Then after that, we'll be having question and answer segment. So let's stay tuned. Um, Go ahead, sir. Uh,
Oh, thank you very much, Fadlullah. It's been an amazing session. I think I will prefer that we go ahead with the question and answer. I'm sure a lot of people will have questions that requires answer. It's been impressive. Must commend the team, and the lineup of the speakers has been amazing. This is very good. Jazakumullah khairan to everyone. So please, let's go straight to the question and answer.
okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So yeah, if you have any question, yeah, you can raise your hands. But
Yeah,
before
there are
I
some hands raised already.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I think I saw brother Absalam hands first. So Absalam, please go ahead. Absalam Abdulhafiz.
No, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for this session and the speakers as well. So my question goes to Scholar Ridwanullah. Actually, while I was in my final year, that was last year, I applied to Ahmad bin Khalifa. I studied petroleum engineering. I graduated with a first class. Though what the course I wanted to study was like I wanted to that I applied for then was data science because I was having much interest in data science, machine learning, and all. And while I was in my fourth year, I've been taking courses. Like I did some projects just to like build my profile. Unfortunately, after my application, everything, I was later rejected. So I reached out to a scholar there at HBK, and he said that I have to like take GRE. So I just want to ask now because I want to try to like put up application this year again. That is GRE really like very compulsory at Ahmad bin Khalifa, or is it really not necessary that probably I need to better my profile either with more projects, more certification, or more publication? So that's just what I want to ask. Thank you very much. Um, can I go ahead to answer, or I should hold on until the
Yeah,
questions are?
definitely.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your question. So well, I do not know to what extent that is a factor, because even I didn't apply with an IELTS, so I of course I can help you find out more further. We can talk privately, but the truth is, so like I said, and that was why I prefaced my speech with that, because like this year HBK application is actually very competitive. It's extremely competitive, and this year it was
Now,
only two scholarships that were offered. So you need to know that a lot of things go into this selection process. But I don't think GRE is a factor for you not being selected. But like I said, we can talk personally. And if it is very possible, if you can find someone who is in the program, then it's going to help you. But if you cannot, I can help you do that. So this is a specific question. And do bear in mind that even if you're applying this coming year, you have to be very prayerful, and you have to not limit yourself to HBKU, because just this year the budget was strong and just two scholarship students are admitted for all the programs. Imagine having hundreds of scholarship applications from all over the world, and you have to pick just two. And for all of these schools, not maybe not all, most of these schools, they have catchment areas. So schools in the Gulf countries, they prefer people coming from Asian countries, Arab countries. So people coming from African countries, they are of course also considered, but preference is given to people coming from there. And from what I've observed, your background too is very crucial. Which university are you coming from? So I wouldn't want to sound discouraging, but a lot of things go into this application process. And like I said, we can talk on a more personal level, because this is the Q&A, and I wouldn't want to take a long time doing an analysis. So if that answers the question, but if they want me to speak further, of course I can go on to answer more broadly. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
So,
Probably I'll just drop my email address so you can, or probably if you are comfortable dropping yours.
Yeah. I
Oh,
was
okay,
about
let me just drop
asking
mine
us
for you instead so that it's
because some other people have requested to connect with you, but I was like, I was not sure if you'd like to me to drop your contact or something. Maybe you want to do that. Thank you.
please, is this Brother Qasim? Okay. So this is my email. So yeah, I've dropped my
All right.
email in the message box. So
Yeah.
yeah, if anybody wants to talk to me, no problem, inshallah.
Thank you so much. Um. Okay. Brother Keolere Ada, you can go on with your question. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, section. Thank you, what I want to learn. Um, HBKU, Amazon Khalifa University. I even want to say that the story you highlighted as application to HBKU is what is happening to me as we speak now. It's happening to me. Can you hear me, sir?
Well, it's not very audible.
Not very clear.
I'm struggling to hear you. Yeah, not very clear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I think it's
Oh,
better
all
now.
right. All right, sir. Thank you. I said the story you narrated as regard your admission into HBKU is kind of looking like what I'm facing at the moment now. So I've already applied, and
Mm,
there was a day I received
mm,
a message from them requesting that one of my documents that they couldn't find one of my documents that I should resend or I should send if I've not sent it before, and I sent to them. And ever since then, I've been expecting them to give me some kind of feedback. In fact, I even sent a mail to that particular email that was used to send to request for that document. But ever since then, I've not received anything. And I overheard some other friends of mine, though they applied for another thing. You see, one of them applied for your own personal, your personal course. But I applied for Islam and global ethics or something like that. So my just question now is that is it possible? Because those friends of mine, they have called them for interview, but me, I'm yet to be called. And I discussed with them, were not like it's my course does not require interview. Those are my friends that said that. So since you're already there, I want to ask, or if it's what I'm going to message you on a personal discussion, maybe you should let me know. Is it possible for someone not to face a panel for an interview and secure admission? And that's my case. Is there any form of maybe green light or something as regard it? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that question. The first thing is that every school has a timeline for everything, for all their programs. The timeline for receiving application, a timeline for interviewing candidates, a timeline for sending out app- um, and the letters. So the truth I must tell you, I'm sorry to say, is that if at this point you did not receive an invite, I'm so sorry to say that most likely you missed out on the scholarship for this year, because all interviews were conducted before the end of Ramadan. Some were conducted just at the beginning of April. And I can even tell you that some schools, some programs already sent out congratulatory messages to those who won the scholarship. So if at this point you have not been called for an interview, I am so sorry. I will advise you that you should start getting set for another application cycle or to look elsewhere. And like I said, don't limit your options to OPKU. Um, diversify your options so that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So of course we can talk better. I can under some times, but for this admission cycle, I think it's gone for this year. It's gone for this year. So if you got the interview, now we can say that okay, maybe you might be on the wait list. But if you are not interviewed, I'm sorry, it's gone for this year. But of course, nothing is impossible, like I said. So you know, there could be another miraculous story from your own end too, that perhaps you come and tell maybe the next year on the end member event. So don't lose hope, and please keep up the hope. Thank you. But of course, you can reach out and we can talk further, inshallah.
All right, Jazakumullah khairan, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's looking like a lot of people are applying to Hamad bin Khalifa University. Okay. Um, Imran, you can go on with your question.
Assalamu alaikum. So rather than questions, I would just love to like make a few comments. They'll be quite quick, and it's just like to support the presentation by the person that made the presentation on Emory and other universities, especially those in that are trying to apply to the US. Um, you know, I would say the things has gotten more competitive with the research funding court nowadays. So now you have to like put your best foot forward for programs that they're gonna tell you it's not required for you to submit the GRE, it's not required for you to submit IELTS scores. You have to understand the fact that it is not required doesn't mean it won't be considered. So if you have the same impressive profile as several other applicants, something has to set you aside from those. So if it is GRE scores, well, that's something they're gonna consider. So to me, I think now we are at a period where you guys have to like put your best foot forward. If you can afford paying for GRE, you should write the GRE. If you can find, relatives to pay for your English proficiency test, I think you should write it. This period is not a period of trying to do the bare minimum that can get you into a program here in the US. It is a time where you put your best foot forward and start hoping you are one of the best candidates here, because the opportunities are less now. Of course, there are more people applying too, so you just have to like put your best foot forward. Something you have to know to be the fact that when you start talking to your mentors about your profile, about your CV, tell them to talk about things you know that are your weaknesses at the moment, things they think you should improve at. So those are things that you create a time schedule for it. Okay, be time defined with your improvement. In the next 2 months, I have to learn this particular thing. In the next 2 months, I have to be skilled in this particular skill. Those are things. So be definite about it. Say I'm going to do this. And of course, there are always like opportunities to learn. Something as simple as a webinar is fine. Something as getting on an online meeting to learn a certain thing for like 3 weeks. It's absolutely fine. So these are things that you should get to like, look on improving. And if you are trying to get into grad school at this point, I would say Nigeria is somehow built on a culture of exploitation in the labor industry, so to speak. So if you say you want to get an internship and you want to be paid for your internship during the internship, that's almost unrealistic. The best thing you can do is go for an internship and be fine with not getting paid. You just have to be clear and be sure that whatever you want to learn during that internship is something that applies to your graduate school journey. To me, I'm not even against the idea of you paying to get an internship experience. There are places like that where you get to pay. I had to like pay for my younger sister like several months ago to get into an internship in Ogbomoso that they are doing genomics there. So it is absolutely fine. These things are things you can get to like work on. Of course, beyond application cycle, something you have to get to notice the fact that most of the time we focus on let me just get in. It doesn't matter what the condition is. It doesn't matter who the kind of professor is. They can be weaker than Nigerian professors. I would say to you, it's a lie. They are like, you see, the journey is something that comes with it gets to a point when you feel lonely, you feel depressed, you feel, I don't know, out of touch. What helps you at that period is you having a supervisor that is empathetic. So if you go on and you don't care, you go into a lab where they have a toxic culture, believe me, it's something you're gonna regret. We've had many people in that are Nigerian scholars and let me say African scholars in general dropping out of programs and moving to other universities because the culture in the lab they got into is just so toxic. So make researches about your prospective mentor, about the lab you are trying to get into. Make researches about them. Ask past graduate students in that lab about things they faced and see if that person is good for you. It is not just about getting into grad school, it's about maintaining your excellence too. So that's something you should get to know too. And to round it up, I will say during this journey, it will come with a lot of negative emotions. You are going to get sad, you are going to feel anger. But I would say if you feel this thing, the best thing to do is channel it to being better. The application I made into my current school was one I made on I got rejected at University of Georgia. So with anger, I went ahead and submit the application to my current university. I was so angry that day. So channel your emotion. Don't channel it into you saying you want to stop applying. Channel it into you getting better. Please, if you are coming to the US, as you are focusing on top universities, I think it is logical to focus on universities with less competition. Search for state universities, search for regional universities in the US, reach out to their graduate admission coordinators and see if you match, the requirements there. So I wish you guys the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Imran. Imran is one of our mentors in the NGM Graduate School Mentorship Platform. We totally appreciate all you've been doing for us. Thank you so much. So I will just be asking two questions. Um, During the application for this event, we had some questions in the form. I just thought that we should just have some of those questions. I have looked through all the questions, so I'm just going to bring out two out of them. I feel a lot of them have been answered by the speakers. So the first one, I would be directing it to Scholar Einstein, as we know him. So it's Taofik Ahmad as Suleiman. The question is this. It says, as a final year student, what are the best things I can do before graduation? So I feel towards graduate school, basically.
Oh yeah, I mean, so basically, one important thing is I always tell people one way to prepare for graduate school, the easiest way is when you're in your bachelor. One is there are a lot of associations in the university that you could join. So it doesn't have to be like a fancy association. It could be a Muslim student association that you hold like a post there. It could be a religious association. It could be your class leadership role, whatever role it is. Just don't shy away from taking responsibility. Basically, engage in community services. Like for example, back then when I was in Ridwanullah, I joined Yali Network. It's just for community services. I joined one African child. I joined some other foundation from my mates that they usually go to outreach. So that will allow me to go for outreach. Then whenever I remember, there was this foundation that I was on then. It was owned by one of my mates, but she usually collect donation, and from those donations she buys stuff and then she goes to community. So she usually need a lot of volunteers. So I usually volunteer for things like this. It's not all about book. So I volunteer for things like this. Then we travel to that community. I assist in sharing that, blah blah blah. So that's like there are several things you could raise your hand on as a current undergraduate. You have to do that. Then also in building your skills, you have to take online courses, especially like for me now, I was doing biomedical engineering. My course didn't have a lot of competition, and I'm interested in computational work. In fact, that was the main reason why I picked Erasmus over the offer I first had in US because the offers were mainly wet lab, and I'm interested in computational. So basically, I took a lot of Coursera course to supplement for the computational background. I think it's one of the key reasons I was able to get the Erasmus offer in computational background. So before I graduated, I already took more than 20 courses on Coursera with their certificate in the areas I'm interested in. So you should take online courses as well. You should try and if you have not done your internship, do it on where that matters. Don't go and do internship in anywhere, or maybe because they are going to pay you. I know money is important, so but always try to strike a balance. Do it in a place where that actually matters, that you can proudly put in your CV that oh, I did this, I did that. Then also when you see your thesis, you should try and pick it in an area that you are really passionate about. Do good work and try to push for publication. You can always talk with some of your lecturers or some people ahead of you to collaborate with them. It might be you doing like writing a review paper with them, things like that. So there are several ways you could build your profile. These are some of them, which for me I actually did. I also did a lot of I wrote a lot of I was engaged in a lot of research, right, in my bachelor doing review. It's just that to publish takes time, and before I could publish them, I already got an offer. But because I got an offer, I didn't give up on the work. I still went ahead and published them, so that before I applied for my next offer after my master's, I already have four publications. So there are several ways to do this thing. You just have to know what you want. And most importantly, if you don't have a CV and you're in your undergraduate, you should draft a CV. From that CV, you already know what is missing and what's not missing. There are several templates that scholars already give. From this template, you need to draft a CV. You already know your deficiency. Then start trying to find a way to fill this deficiency, and I think you will just be fine.
All right, thank you so much for the beautiful response. Um, so the other question I'll be directing it to Abdulmujeeb Muhammad-Olodo. So the question is,
Sorry,
what's your
it's
biggest
Abdulmujeeb Muhammad-Olodo.
Olodo? Sorry,
Yeah.
Olodo. Thank you, sir. What's your biggest confusion stage in the whole of the graduate school planning process, and how did you navigate through?
Huh?
Let's go to
Sorry, somebody's mic is on. I wouldn't say. I think they need to mute the microphone.
Abdullah Jami, please could
I'll go
you
do
mute yourself?
All right. So I wouldn't call it confusion stage. It was more like I actually always knew that for
I
me.
can't hear you from my end. Sorry.
Can anyone hear me? Okay, I can go on. All right, thank you very much. So as I was saying, I said being broke actually made me know which was more feasible for me, and I needed to be realistic with myself. USA was going to be a bit financially um, incapacitating for me to venture into the application. There was a lot of money involved. I think I needed to budget about, because of the course I wanted to do, which was public health, I needed to budget about $200 back then. There was no way I could afford that. Actually, no, not 200, 400. Yeah, because I remember penning that down, and that wasn't affordable. So I knew I needed to push towards applying to mostly UK funded schools, and that was where the Commonwealth, Chevening, and the other ones came to be. So confusion was not necessarily the issue. It was mostly navigating rejections and how to succumb to and how to continue to push forward. But I guess when I kept seeing lots of people talking about how many times they had to go through rejection and how many applications they put forward, I guess that kind of reduced the shock. And towards the end of the application cycle, I was already beginning to even prepare for another application. So I think I had pushed in so much, I was putting up my effort into the Commonwealth, both masters and shared. And towards the end, when I didn't receive a feedback I expected, I was already I spent like a year trying to gather funds to start pushing towards the USA pathway, but alhamdulillah, the scholarship came through. So the whole issue of confusion was never really my thing. I wasn't confused. I knew I knew my situation, and I was able to navigate through that. But for others, I guess that a lot of time for people, it used to be, what do they want to do? There's some people that actually just want to leave the country, and it makes it a bit difficult. Because I remember one of the panelists mentioned, I think that was, sorry, the speaker mentioned how he was trying to correct somebody's statement of purpose, and the person went ahead to change her essay all over again. That's just a clear case of confusion. The person didn't know what exactly they wanted to do, but they knew for sure they needed to leave the country. So sometimes, whilst that is actually a valid reason, I mean, everybody deserves a better life somewhere. It's necessary that you need to get your story clear. So, may not necessarily be related to me, but a lot of times confusion might be, what do they really want to do, and what do they see themselves doing moving forward. So how I think another common, because this question comes up a lot of times. Another way I like to tell people to do, especially within the space I'm in, is to write out the things that they actually do not want to do. And from there, they can cut back on a lot of options. It makes it easier when you're able to cut back on a lot of options that you know that are not related to you. And moving forward, I think everything becomes clear as you go ahead. Also, talking to people in other spaces makes it even more interesting. Having people to contact. I usually recommend. I usually preach the gospel of having a LinkedIn account. To be honest, when you have your track record of your LinkedIn account and the things you post, it makes it easier to reach out to people that are in certain spaces that you think you want to venture into, and they may give you the listening ear to at least advise you further. So I guess that is what I have. That's like the answer I can provide in response to that question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Abdulmujeeb. So I wouldn't want to waste much of our time again because we have spent beyond the time allotted for this. So I would like to appreciate all of our speakers, starting from the main speaker, Abdul Kabir, and the panelists, Ridwan, Taofik, and Abdulmujeeb. We totally appreciate you for honoring our invitation. I know these guys are big guys, to be very honest, and I was actually we are honored to have you all on this call, and we ask Allah to make all of what you've told to us beneficial to us, and we should all we also appreciate the participants as well, and we should expect the next webinar. Like I said, we are doing the webinar is kind of is going to be towards how to get into your school in fall 2026, right? And it's going to be tailored towards application for fall 2026, basically. So just to give us an insight of what we should expect next, um, we should expect something around CV, SOP, and the likes, how to write them properly. So just things like that, just to support you in your journey. Thank you so much. We totally appreciate you all. Um, may Allah reward you all abundantly. Jazakumullah khairan, and this will be the end of the event. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.